The radar screen is quiet. Too quiet. A pilot stares into the darkness, flying an aircraft designed to be invisible. Billions of dollars. Decades of research. A machine built around a single promise: they cannot see you. Then, without warning, a signal appears. Not a blur, not a glitch. A clean, unmistakable lock. For the first time in modern warfare, stealth is no longer stealth. This is not science fiction. This is a question defense planners quietly fear. What if stealth technology became obsolete? What if invisibility ended overnight? For more than 40 years, stealth has shaped global power. It has decided which nations could strike first, which forces could move freely, which pilots could enter hostile airspace and return alive. Stealth aircraft, stealth submarines, stealth drones. The unseen advantage, the assumption that detection could always be delayed long enough to matter. Now imagine a world where that assumption collapses. Not slowly, not after decades of adaptation, but suddenly. A breakthrough sensor, a new way of processing information, a different way of seeing the battlefield. Radar that no longer cares about angles, sensors that do not rely on reflection, networks that fuse data so efficiently that nothing truly disappears. In this world, stealth does not fail because aircraft become worse. It fails because detection becomes smarter. Stealth has always been a game of physics, shapes designed to scatter radar waves, materials built to absorb energy instead of reflecting it. Heat signatures reduced, sound minimized, emissions controlled. Stealth never meant invisibility. It meant delay. It meant confusion. It meant buying time. But that balance rests on assumptions about how detection works, and assumptions are fragile. Imagine detection systems that do not rely on a single radar station or a single sensor. Low-frequency radar that ignores stealth shaping, passive systems that listen instead of transmit, infrared satellites watching heat patterns from orbit, artificial intelligence correlating tiny anomalies across thousands of sensors. One system sees noise, another sees interference, a third sees a shadow. Together they see the target. Stealth disappears not because of one invention, but because of integration. Detection becomes about patterns, not reflections, and patterns do not lie. History has seen this before. Armored knights once ruled battlefields until crossbows and gunpowder made armor meaningless. Battleships dominated the seas until aircraft carriers rewrote naval warfare. Fortresses symbolized power until artillery erased walls. Every era builds an advantage. Every advantage creates a counter. Stealth is no exception. The science behind defeating it already exists in pieces. The only missing element is scale. Once detection becomes automated, cheap, and networked, stealth loses its monopoly. And when stealth loses its monopoly, the world changes quickly. The first impact would be shock. Stealth aircraft begin to appear on radar screens where nothing should exist. Submarines are detected earlier than expected. Drones vanish from one sensor only to reappear perfectly tracked by another. Military exercises are halted. Missions are delayed. Confidence evaporates. Pilots trained to trust invisibility must now assume exposure. Commanders rewrite rules of engagement in real time. If you can be seen, you can be targeted. If you can be targeted, deterrence weakens. The shock is not just technical, it is psychological. Stealth was not only a capability, it was a belief, and that belief collapses instantly. Then the balance of power shifts. Stealth has never been evenly distributed. A small number of nations invested trillions to dominate it. Others built strategies around surviving it. But detection technology does not require exotic aircraft or specialized pilots. It requires sensors, data, and software. When stealth loses its edge, smaller nations gain leverage. Airspace becomes contested again. Naval choke points become dangerous. Borders turn into visible front lines. This does not guarantee war. It guarantees instability. When surprise becomes harder, miscalculation becomes more likely. History shows that sudden shifts in offense and defense increase the risk of conflict, not because nations want war, but because they misjudge each other. The response would be immediate. Militaries would not slow down. They would accelerate. If stealth no longer works, speed becomes the new shield. Electronic warfare replaces shaping. Swarm tactics replace single high-value platforms. Instead of one stealth bomber, hundreds of expendable drones. Instead of hiding overwhelming, weapons become cheaper. Systems become autonomous. Human decision time shrinks. The battlefield moves faster than human reaction. This is not a return to old warfare. It is a leap into something faster, denser, and harder to control. The consequences would not remain military. They never do. The same sensors capable of tracking stealth aircraft can track everything else. Civilian air traffic becomes hyper-monitored. Satellites follow movement in real time. Cities become transparent. Privacy erodes not through force, but through capability. These systems do not ask who you are. They ask where you are, and they remember. What begins as a defense breakthrough becomes a surveillance revolution. The line between security and control quietly blurs. At the strategic level, the implications deepen. Nuclear deterrence relies on stealth. Submarines hidden beneath oceans. Bombers capable of penetrating defenses. If stealth erodes, second strike capability comes into question. That alone forces a rewrite of doctrine. Decision windows shorten. Early warning systems gain pressure. Leaders face choices faster with less certainty. Visibility increases anxiety, and anxiety is dangerous. History shows that transparency does not eliminate conflict. It changes how conflict begins. Stealth technology represents more than aircraft design. It represents the belief that power can hide, that dominance can be silent, that superiority can move unseen. If stealth becomes obsolete, the world does not automatically become safer or more dangerous. It becomes different. Power becomes louder, more visible, more reactive. And in a world where everyone can see everyone else, the margin for error shrinks to almost nothing. The end of stealth would not be the end of innovation. It would be the end of an era defined by invisibility and the beginning of one defined by exposure. Defense budgets would shift. Alliances would recalibrate. Old doctrines would be rewritten under pressure, while new risks emerge faster than they can be understood. Nations would test red lines simply to see what is now possible, pushing systems to their limits.